Tanme Manah Shiva Sankalpamastu. In that we have stopped in the middle of third verse. Yat prajnanamuta cheto dhutischa yajyotirantaramrutam prajasu yasmannarute kinchana karma kriyate tanme manah Shiva Sankalpamastu. Tanme Manah Shiva Sankalpamastu. We are understanding that just reciting Tanme Manah Shiva Sankalpamastu itself is a great mantra which has its very positive effect on our antakarana, mind and other activities. Yesterday we also understood that how that unrest mind go on producing many thoughts by which one will have a mental fatigue. We mention always about physical fatigue, and this leads to mental fatigue. In a common language, fatigue and tiredness are both used in the same manner, same meaning. But the medical science differentiate it. The fatigue is different from tiredness. The fatigue is almost your broke down. Tiredness is you are feeling discomfort. Fatigue is almost you know this. I feel so fatigued too. Anyway, fatigue, the word interchange with the tiredness also. The real fatigue is something broken. Nothing one could do physically. It's a physical fatigue. The mental fatigue is nothing. Nothing means it doesn't become still. That's a wonderful thing if it happens. The mental fatigue results in stillness of the mind. It's okay. That doesn't do that. It does other way around. That's why 6 verses of Shiva Sankalpa Sutta. This is also known as Shiva Sankalpa Upanishad. 6 stanzas. Anyway, whichever the literature or few stanzas which conveys certain higher spiritual practices, they are just classified as Upanishad. Though there are, there are major Upanishads, but sometimes even this is called Upanishad because it is teaching us something which an Upanishad also teaches. So it is also known as Shiva Sankalpa Upanishad. That's why these 6 verses, in every verse, is continuously repeat and remind us, not just repeat, it reminds us to have auspicious thoughts. It's an experience for one to have that auspicious thoughts. Because mind will be drifting over and all those thoughts. Just give you an example of these auspicious thoughts. Most of you sitting here for 1 hour or so, question yourself, during this 1 hour, if you are seriously concentrating on the Gnana Yagna, whole of 1 year, your mind will be having only auspicious thoughts. I'm sure. I'm very sure. Maybe sometimes it may just go and come back. But during this 1 hour, all of us will have the auspicious thoughts only. It's a great achievement. That is the, see, one cannot teach a very common man all these intricacies of spiritual practice, dhyana, yoga, etc. Most of us today having only auspicious thoughts because our mind is focused on a particular thing. My mind is focused on what I should speak, and your mind is focused on to listen to what I say. There is a synchronization. During this time, please have only auspicious thoughts. If you go on increasing these thoughts, time, 1 hour, and some of us will be doing our sadhana. During that days, the auspicious, different higher frequency. It is not given to you every day. There are certain mantras which are very powerful. During that reciting, chanting of those mantras, we call as mantra yoga. If the mind is not able to concentrate on the mantra, or the mind fails to have only the auspicious thoughts and mind roaming around everywhere and mantra is going on, mind roaming everywhere with all unscrupulous thoughts. During that time, jealousy, angry, sorrow, all those emotions will be going during that mantra japa. The mantra is already powerful. So these thoughts, mantra, what it does is, it fortifies these thoughts. It supplements it multifold. And those people will have a lot of adverse effects because of chanting mantra. Second, that I am supporting a particular system that was existing, but some people are to be deprived of getting some mantras. I don't say that. But I also say, while giving a mantra to a person, the Guru has to evaluate and say and see that what fits him. Or that's why Srividya mantras are not given at a stretch. They go step by step, so that they prepare the sadhaka. So mantra sadhana also, just because I have a wonderful mantra, I sit for sadhana and mind roam all over with all the emotions, all bad emotions, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsari, all that emotions will be going on. I tell you, that mantra japa, mantra yoga will definitely ruin the person. And such a person cannot blame the mantra or guru. I have seen many people come to me and say, sir, I'm given this mantra. Before that I was wonderful. After doing this mantra, things are very bad to me. This is the reason for it. So, what is the purpose of telling all this today is, mantra yoga will be beneficial, will be useful, will produce its desired results, including Jivan Mukti, including getting all our materialistic requirements, Bhukti Mukti, provided Tanme Mana Shiva Sankalpamastu. At least during the time of chanting or doing mantra. This is the purpose. Such a roaming, drifted thoughts, the mind, if it is not attended properly, if you don't attend the mind properly, it goes on giving 100 choices If you have a one question mind poses and mind comes up with hundreds of choices, like Google search. Let me have some lighter vein also. When you put one word for Google, and it is proud to say 0.334 seconds, I have found 11,000, 1 lakh, 150 lakhs, something. Such as we have found. Great. Same thing happened to us also. The mind will give us so many choices. We are into confusion. What to choose? Should I do this? Should I do that? When we have endless choices for anything, in our even materialistic life and in day-to-day life also, it leads to confusion and doubt. I want to make Gnana Yagla also little humorous. I am trying to make it. I can. It happens in it's not planned for morning breakfast. Housewife in the morning will have a lot of choices what to prepare for breakfast. And I tell you, finally she lands up in something other than what she thought of for 1 hour. For their housewives. And you have experienced it. And you agree with me also. Unless you already decided that this is tomorrow breakfast. If you have not decided, if you want to think in the morning what to, you have 100 choices. Done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then availability of the material. Finally, you land up. None of you thought something else you produce. I don't say it's wrong. Just I giving you the example. How we react to the endless choices given by mind to us. Confusion. In such a situation, the buddhi takes over. What we call intellect. It's the faculty of intellect. It comes to play. As we know, the function of buddhi is to know, judge, decide what is right, what is wrong. So, buddhi will always try to guide manasu in the right direction. It does always. And buddhi always will not drive towards the unrighteousness. It is its natural faculty. Please. Buddhi of all of us, whatever we are, buddhi by its natural quality, it always shows the mind the righteousness. And sometimes buddhi also have a listen to inner voice. With that inner voice, it tries to convince the manas to follow the right path. We are trying to understand our mind, trying to understand our buddhi and chitta display. Unless we understand this antakarana, it's an instrument. If we don't understand the instrument, we will not know how to handle them and how to operate. And actually, if you really search in our ancient text, you may find volumes on antakarana. Volumes. There could be only, somebody can choose, pick and choose from all the Upanishads. Only that part which talks about antakarana. There could be voluminous text. So this manasu, though buddhi wants to guide it, it has Listen to Buddhi. Why no? It listens to the impressions that is in Chitta, stored up impressions, memories in Chitta. That's the power. It is the storage of the memory, as we know. All our samskaras, impressions of various past lives. I know we have understood what past lives are. Instead of past lives, I should say, it has got samskaras, impressions of many thoughts which were not dissolved and available, which has attracted before the birth, during the birth, also after that. I tell you, even at this stage, you will be attracting certain thoughts from the account of samskara. What the thoughts which have embedded impression on our chitta is, before birth is prarabdha karma. But even now we get it, those impressions forcing us. That's because of our karma. We connect to those thoughts and that will have an impression. Because that impressions are based on past thoughts, our own thoughts maybe. That need not be there, somewhere getting thoughts. Some of the thoughts are stored in chitta. It makes a mix of so many things, compositions, combination, it comes with some other thing. So a lot of information stored in chitta, and that will be guiding chitta. Much against sometimes the direction of the buddhi. So the manas, following its natural inclination, get attached to these impressions of the chitta. So this becomes a play between manasu and chitta directly, and buddhi will be only watching the fun, because manasu doesn't listen to buddhi at all, because the buddhi is intellect. It wants to guide us, but that guidance is not taken by manasu, because the impressions at chitta are very strong. But buddhi is thinking, look, my intention is to make the manasu be in peace, but I am not able to do it because of the chitta. So buddhi then thinks of handling the chitta to make it still and serene. At the same time, see, manasu, on one hand, buddhi tries to influence it. Manasu has personally nothing, it is only thoughts. Decision is not taken by manasu. The decisiveness is because of the buddhi, and also because of chitta or the store. Depends on the storage. I understand things only what I have stored in my mind, I mean my chitta. So manasu is listening to both, and most of the time chitta takes over, and buddhi becomes, so sorry, I wanted to convey the proper righteousness and but then it is not the right thing to forcibly still the mind. No, stilling the mind, stopping thoughts forcefully is not a solution. It is becomes suppression. Somewhere referring to Saptashati, or I don't know where, we have referred about Mano Nasha. Manasu is not existing at all. It is not Mano Nigraha, Mano Nasha. Permanent stilling of the mind. That state can be attained through gnana and the right action of removing those impressions which causes disturbance to the mind. That's why Buddhi always tell us, drive our manasu towards sadhana, yagna, purifications, so that the impressions, stored memories that need not be prarabdha karma. There are so many things that are stored. So Buddhi is always pointing out towards addressing mind. Do this, my dear. Do this, my dear. Do some mantra sadhana. Do that. So that the impression of the chitta level can get released. I want to tell you something here. Maybe just 50 years back, need not be 100 years back. In small villages and small towns, even now it's there in some places. Because all cannot understand Upanishad, Vedas and all. So Puranas, Ramayana, Parayana, Mahabharata Parayana, and some Puranas. There is a temple and all the people in the evening will go there, listen to Purana. Now it is only a history, even in villages and even in towns. Purana Shravana. Purana Shravana is one of the ways, means to make Tanmay Mana Shiva Sankalpa. Without knowing this, without having any understanding of this, our ancestors have followed to pull up even the common man to the floor. The common person who has no any knowledge of spirituality towards spiritual path. So whenever you be there, Purana, somebody will be reading and you listen to that. During that time you are totally still, all auspicious thoughts. Harikatha. Harikatha, Shivakatha, or Purana Shravana was a part of our life once upon a time. We know now what is our part of life. It is the small screen. That's our everything for us today. I don't say it's wrong or right. It's just giving only a fact. When that process starts, the waves of the chitta become still and calm. And when chitta start reflect in the self, the chitta should start reflecting the self. See, though Shankara Bhagavad Pada Acharya do not have sanctioned the whole of Patanjali Yoga Shastra, but certain things are admitted as it is. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodhaka. It is not Manovritti Nirodhaka. What is that? Still the fluctuation of the impressions of the chitta, the mind, manas, always follows this chitta. Once that chitta vritti has become nirodha, it effortlessly sinks into the self. That's why the buddhi plays very, very important role. We know that now. We understood to some extent Manasu, Buddhi, Chitta, and how to use these three instruments and direct the Manasu to have only auspicious thoughts. The auspicious thoughts itself is enough. Nothing is required. It makes our life wonderful. Both our materialistic life as well as spiritual life. You think for a while. What prevents us? What We may have a lot of difficulties, sorrows in the life, desires not fulfilled, fulfilled, not fulfilled, yet to be fulfilled. And there is something serious in our family. With all that, that's samsara. We can't run away from that. In spite of all these things, what prevents the mind? Have the auspicious thoughts? No. It only requires the will. Intellect has to guide us. If something inauspicious thought comes, we must suppress it and drive it towards the auspicious thoughts. It's a practice. I don't say we can do all the 24 hours auspicious thoughts. If we go on increasing that time of auspicious thoughts in a day, wonderful. If one can do for 1 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, not like this. And don't say that talking to somebody, I'm doing this job or that job, how can I impressions for auspicious thoughts? I told you, the mind is an instrument which can do multitasking. You can be talking to somebody, you can do some work, whatever you want, you can drive, you can read. Simultaneously, you can also have auspicious thoughts. Having auspicious thoughts in the mind continuously, even engaging mind elsewhere, is not difficult. The auspicious thoughts is a faculty by itself. Only auspicious thoughts. Please, let us have introspection of our own lives. All of us are human beings. All of us have faced difficulties, sorrow, good days, bad days, everything. If we really make introspection, most of the time, for our difficulties, sorrow, pain, definitely is our failure to have auspicious thoughts. My effort is fulfilled today. If my message is conveyed, just nothing required. Continuous auspicious thoughts brings a transformation in our life. All comes in our favor. Before we complete another 3 stanzas, if we start working on that, it's a great achievement in our lives. Then we go to another instrument, Antakarana, inner instrument, called I. This I sense is what we can call ego, identifies with. But this ego, I-ness, it is not its, it borrows it from the manasa and chitta. Yes. You see, when I say now, I am talking to you. This I is taking their credit. Ego is taking credit. I am talking. That talking or speaking and all this happening because of manasa and my chitta. But I take the credit of it. I don't take the credit of manasa chitta. I am doing it. It borrows identification from that. When it is borrows that I-ness from chitta and manasa, the state of manas, state of chitta determines the state of ego. It's difficult to understand. I repeat. I have done this. This I have done this is borrowed from manaso and chitta. There is no I without that. So the state of ego depends on the state of manaso, chitta. If chitta and manasa is engaged and preoccupied with thoughts, the ego will reflect exactly that, nothing else. The ego is the reflection of what the thoughts in mind and chitta. Otherwise, thoughts of manasu, impressions of chitta. That's the reflection, that's all. The identification of ego is the reflection of chitta and manasa. Nothing I has to do. It reflects what is done by chitta and manasa. It says, it takes credit. I just told you, I am talking to you. This talking from where is coming? Is it not the reflection of my chitta and mind? But I take credit for it. Chitta, I is the reflection of chitta and manasa. So I-ness is not there and chitta and manasa is not there. It's a reflection of that. Whatever manas, I told you also earlier also, with examples, whatever is happening at the level of manasu, chitta and buddhi, I takes credit. It is done by buddhi. It is done by chitta. It is done by manasu, by the thoughts. Ego says that I have done it. Hope you understand this. I don't know. I find no reason difficult to understand this. There's nothing I here. Manasu has done something. Buddhi has guided it. Chitta has stored it. Result, something happened. That something has happened, taken credit by I. I factor. That's it. That's how the ego is identified. So similarly, this ego, I, can also become ananda and happiness. Because the I-ness, the ego, behaves entirely dependent on the state of our manasu and chitta, irrespective of buddhi has played its role or not. That's why we have in the history the great sadhakas who are not intellects, but they're spiritual masters, enlightened masters. They're not intellects. It's only manasu and chitta, irrespective of whether buddhi played a important role in life or not. So our ego behaves entirely on, depending on the state of manas. That's why the word dhritischa comes here. In the verse, what it is in this mantra. Yat pragnanam utacheto dhritischa yash jyotirantarmrutam prajasu dhritischa. When we understand dhritischa, we will have so many answers. Dhritischa means the mind that never gives up, even when the body and senses are tired. Most of us experienced it. The mind never gives up, even if the body and senses are tired. The sadhaka never forget its daily sadhana. Though the body and senses are tired. So he continues and persists in sadhana. Even though at times we may experience very weak moments. This has happened to many people. We may even want to give up. I told you earlier also. There are many people who have got confusion. That confusion has impression on the chitta. So because of I have taken this mantra, this is happening. So let me leave it up. It's happened to many places. So the impression of Chitta is so great when Buddhi doesn't work there. Dritishcha is one that never gives up. Dritishcha also means that patience. The sadhaka, the nature of sadhaka, who is mature in one sadhana. Journey itself is the reward, not the destination. Even this I have mentioned on many occasions. It is not the destination that matters, but how we enjoy the journey. One should discover, enjoy the journey itself as the reward. A mind that is powered by buddhi than chitta. Difficult. Buddhi is influenced, Manasu, when it trains itself to be directed by buddhi, listening to its directions, commands, than the impressions of chitta, it will be a great achievement. Once mind that is powered by buddhi, directed by buddhi, it begins the mastery over Panchabhutas and the relative sense perceptions. Yeah, I know I'm handing a little tough subject, I repeat. We are trying to understand our activity every day by this Shiva Sankalpa Sutta. How the mind works, which is influencing it, how the thoughts come in, what decisions the mind takes, and how do we decide how that way. So what we are concluding is, the buddhi is intellect. It always guides us on righteousness. So it's called buddhi. But the chitta impressions will not allow that. Samskaras. So isn't it? See, even we cannot find any bad person. Even in bad person, that buddhi is only righteousness. But his samskaras, impressions, chitta guide the manasu, making all bad actions. So it is necessary to train the mind to listen to buddhi than influenced by chitta. That's that. Once that is done, once mind is trained, it's exactly, these thoughts are what? Karmas. May not be prarabdha karma. Our own thoughts, impressions. So manasu, which is not getting attached to chitta, means our karma palas are not active. Except prarabdha karma. I told you, that's, you can't stop it. Otherwise, other karmas accumulated, other actions accumulated, other thoughts accumulated. If you can stop that, to influence the manasu, that bad karmapalas will not bother us. So mind is powered by buddhi, then it slowly go on gaining mastery over the five elements. And we know that all the five primordial elements have their sense perceptions, which we have dealt earlier also. I don't know where I mentioned this before. We have Panchabhutas. We know Prithvi. Prithvi has all the five tanmatras, senses, not sense organs, not the Gnanendriya I'm talking about. I'm talking about tanmatra. That is smell, taste, sight, touch, and sound. Vag, manas, chakra, chakshu, jihva. All this earth involves, all these five. 5 tanmatras, 5 senses. Whereas water has 4: taste, sight, touch, and sound. It doesn't have smell. Fire, only 3: sight, touch, and sound. Sparsha, Shabda, Chakshu. Air has only 2: touch and sound. Shabda, Sparsha. And the space, sound only. The elements are universally, though seems to be 5, they're 1. We know that everything is made up of primordial elements. It is not just within us, but also all around us. I stop here, give you some thought. A subtle mind, we already mentioned, the mind is very expansive, much more expansive than space. The subtle mind, Sukshma Manas, if it becomes one with space, once it becomes one with space, begins to fly outside the body and connect with the universal mind. That is, if you can understand that subtle mind, Sukshma Manas, which already we know that it's very subtle, it is much more expansive than the space. If the mind becomes one with the space, it begins to fly outside the body and then connects with the universal mind. I recall my long back statement that mind is not in the body. Hope most of you remember this. I said mind is outside the body. Remember anybody? Can anybody recollect this? Hello?
Yes, Guru. Yes, Guru.
I remember very much. I said, we think that is in the mind within us. Somebody said it's in heart, somebody said it's in neuro, somebody. Finally, the real mind is always outside the body. Because it's already with space. We have to identify it. That is the key. Once the mind becomes one with the space, it is there. It is one with the space. But it needs a little bit of training to understand that it is one with the space. Once we understand it, it's one with the space, it starts expanding and begins to fly outside the body. Once it starts flying outside the body, it connects with the Brahman, the mind of the universe. You see, when Pindanda has a mind, which is the microcosm, the Brahmanda also has a mind. No doubt. If microcosm has a mind, so also macrocosm, because they're same. As I mentioned, every cell in our body has all the activity of a life. It's the smallest functional structural unit of the life. That small cell will respirate. That's one cell. Regenerates, reproduces. It is response. What the group of cells also do something, same thing. So that single cell has also all the qualities of the whole organism. Similarly, whatever the single organism has got, single cell has got, same thing is also Brahmanda. There is a mind in the universe also. So this subtle mind should start connecting with the universal mind, the supreme mind. The sadhakas, the existence moves outside us. Once the mind is moving outside the body, in that sense, that limited sense of mind moving out of the body, the sadhaka becomes immortal. Because all the barriers of the body are transcended. When the barriers of the body are transcended, many abilities are what we call in modern language psychic abilities may also begin to manifest. Because the mind is away, playing out, connecting to the universal mind. With limited scope, I told you the other day, mind is now, we are confined to the gross form. It remains only at the gross level. But when it expands, when it identifies with the universal consciousness, it flies out. We continue this tomorrow.